Should we go? Should we just mute? Can we nigun? Can we get nigun oil? Okay. Just give me a key. And nigun brings the prayers that you don't even know you have in your heart straight up to God with no words. And you already have the words in your heart, and you can't sing the wrong note. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome, everyone. I'm Leslie Berger, co-president. Hold it a little bit closer. I'm Leslie Berger, co-president of the temple, along with David Youngman. And I'd like to thank Rabbi Mark, Cantor Stacey, and Dr. Ray. And also can't forget to the tech team, Phil Carey, David Youngman, and Chris Jastroff. To remind you, we're having a food drive on August 14th from 11 to 1. It's a drive-by, so just have it in your car, and we'll take whoever's going to be here. We'll take it out of your car so you don't have to leave your car. What else is happening? We had a great board retreat last Sunday. The new board members learned a lot of stuff, kind of basics of the temple, of how it operates and how to turn the lights on and turn the air on and all the basic stuff that some people are not aware of. And so, yeah, it was a long day, but we had a good time. And also would like to thank Carol Brennan for bringing the food for tonight's Oneg. And we're honoring Ken and Joan Goodman for their 70th wedding anniversary. Welcome. And what else? Oh, and I'd like to thank the ushers, Flo Bornstein and Diana Brown, for being the ushers, and to thank all the volunteers that have been volunteering. So we appreciate all the volunteers. If you want to be an usher, see Harry Jacob. He wants to get more people to be ushers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Leslie, for sharing those announcements for us. I want to acknowledge as well Ken and Joan and their 70th anniversary. They have sponsored our Oneg this evening. So following our service, as you join us in our social hall, please feel free to partake of our Oneg in acknowledgement of a very important anniversary, their 70th anniversary. That's amazing. Ken and Joan, thank you for setting the example and the milestone for us. We all hope to follow in your footsteps. For those of you joining us at home on YouTube, please take this opportunity to set aside some challah, some candles, a bissel of wine, or your other favorite Shabbat beverage, so that we might share appropriate blessings together when we reach our candles and our kiddush and motzi. And I have Shabbat greetings from Jeff and Wilma Shear, Rita and Bob Rubin, and Sergio Sanchez Gutzman. Thank you all very much for continuing your support of our Shabbat greetings. I wish to acknowledge that Jeff is a past president of our congregation. Rita is a member of our temple board. Thank you all very much for your continued support of our congregation. And as I mentioned, Ken and Joan Goodman in honor of their wedding anniversary. And you know what? We're going to hold off on that Siman Tov until a little bit later on during our service, so that we can acknowledge them appropriately towards the end of our service. I also wish to acknowledge that we are joined by Cantor Stacey's parents, Steve and Beverly, who are here with us this evening. Thank you all very much for sharing your daughter with us, and more importantly, for enabling her to be with us, to be our Cantor. As many of you know, Cantor Stacey continues her recuperation and has not yet been taken off her training wheels. So she needs adult supervision in her travels. And we do look forward to the time when Stacey can travel unaccompanied by her chaperones. But thank you for keeping her out of trouble. As we come to this Shabbat, we have the opportunity to not only pause for a moment, but to do something that we seldom have time to do. To just be. Not to worry about what's coming up next, to not worry about another task that needs to be performed, another email that needs to be responded to. This is a chance for us just to focus on being. We've kind of lost touch with that. Back in the day, we took great joy from watching the grass grow and the sheep run and the waves crash and the clouds move across the sky. Thanks to our modern life, those simple pleasures now strike us as anticlimactic. And yet, in truth, being in the moment is what it's all about. That's why this moment is called the present. It is a gift for us. And how do we use that gift? That is what Shabbat asks us. How do you use this moment? Realizing that this is the ultimate moment. When it's gone, it's gone. We can't reclaim it. We can't hit the rewind button. Oh, I do love watching movies on Netflix. What'd they say? Turn on the subtitles. Okay, thank you. Turn off the subtitles, move on with the movie. Life isn't that way. And so it's important for us to live life to the fullest, which is why, of course, the Jewish toast, the universal exclamation of Jews across the world and across time is L'chaim, to life. We celebrate this moment of Shabbat. The world is fast losing its soul, but you do not have to surrender yours. You do not have to live on a mechanical globe. You do not have to tame your deep forest passions. You do not have to suppress your radiant beauty. Live your joy. Go against the grain. Don't be made timid by worried rejection. Let nature's curious wisdom fill you. Let the world's mystical heritage guide you. paint your canvases and play your tunes, and give your all to the words that are born from you. Your Father in your Father's heaven will never abandon you, but always, always love the scintilla of your spirit. To help sanctify this moment, we acknowledge it with words from Psalms. Hine ma tov u'manayim. Look how wonderful and beautiful it is when we see each other as brothers and as sisters.
מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים,
I invite Marian Gasser to join us on the bima to lead us in the reading and the lighting of our Shabbat candles.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotov v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, source of all being, who calls us to holy acts through mitzvot, and inspires us to kindle these lights of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shabbat.
Thank you very much, Marian. Shabbat shalom to you. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. We read together, on Shabbat, we seek not to acquire. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted.
On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation.
And there are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others.
On Shabbat, we remember that our justice, liberty, and a better world is our goal.
And so we embrace Shabbat, a day of rest, a day of wonder, a day of peace. I invite us to rise as we are able, as we continue with our Baruch Hu, our call to worship. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and seasons glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and night, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. We read together.
All these things the Torah gives to us.
And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. Than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Be seated.
Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all of thy mind. And all these words which I command thee on this day shall be thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. Thou shalt speak them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by thy way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up, and when thou risest up, thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, They shall be for frontlets between thine eyes, and thou shalt write them on the doorposts of the house, and upon thy gates, and upon thy gates, that ye may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there, except by joining hands and marching together. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Let there be love and understanding among us. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions. Live hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim.
ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. את השבת, את אורותיו, את דור עולם, ברית עולם.
As we prepare to continue our service with the Amidah, one of the central portions of our worship service, we are challenged by what it means to pray and what is the power of prayer. Some view prayer as a vending machine. Put in the right prayer and receive the anticipated results. But Judaism doesn't see prayer that way. Our rabbis teach us in the Talmud, one who enters their village or city noticing smoke rising should not pray, "May that fire not be in my home." Why? Because the fire is already taking place, and God's not going to move it from one home to another home. Likewise, our rabbis teach us when one hears news of a pregnant relative, "Oh, may that child be a male or a female." The rabbis caution us that too is a vain prayer. Even in our tefillah, even in our prayers, the second set of prayers that we share, known as the Gevurot, in the summertime include the phrase, "Morid hatal," who causes the dew to fall. You do not pray for rain in the summertime because it doesn't rain in the summertime. You acknowledge the dew. You pray for rain in winter and in the rainy seasons. And so Judaism never really viewed prayer as a vending machine. Instead, the word lihitpalel is a reflexive verb. Oh God, how I hate grammar. In Hebrew Dikduk, the worst class we had as rabbinic students was Hebrew Dikduk. Learning the grammar structures of any language is something that is difficult for me, and I managed. But it is nonetheless a reflexive verb because the prayers we share, more than meant for God's ears, I think are meant for our ears. When we pray for peace, the reflexive part of that is, what have I done to bring peace to the world? If I harbor animosity or hatred to another, there will be no peace in the world, because why should I be the exception? And so we sort of measure ourselves by these prayers. We challenge ourselves by these prayers. Abraham and Sarah lived in a time that I can only imagine of in my worst nightmares. No indoor plumbing, no air conditioning, no internet, no technology. Truly my worst nightmare. No vaccines, plagues routinely wiping out people you know and love. Truly a nightmare. And yet we talk about them in our prayers. Why? Why should we think about Abraham and Sarah? What do we share in common with them besides this faith? What we share in common with them is a challenge. They never gave up hope in a better tomorrow. They never did. And they faced things much worse than we can ever imagine, even in our nightmares. And the challenge to us is, what about our faith in a better tomorrow? This meditation I'm about to share with you is one of my favorite ones about prayer, because I think this captures it exactly. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, maybe even God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. And so, we rise as we are able, as we continue with the words of our tefillah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה הכל רב להושיע מוריד הטל מחכל חיים שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשיא לעולם שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשיא לעולם כי אתה הוא מלך לכו שלום, כי אתה הוא מלך העולם. לכו שלום, וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל זמן בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני עמו ישראל השלום.
We extend our prayers of peace, of shalom, and wholeness to all who have found their sense of wholeness, shalom, and peace disturbed, perhaps even shattered by the challenges they are facing. Those who are facing threats and challenges to their health and their well-beings, their bodies, and their minds. In a moment, our cantor will lead us in our Misha Berach, our prayers of hope for healing and wholeness. And I will invite you prior to that to share aloud the name of a loved one. Thus we might bring them here into this space and into our hearts at this time. May all who are facing challenges to their health and their well-being be blessed on their journey, a journey that will bring them to a refuah shlema, a return to the wholeness that they seek, the shalom that they desire and crave. I invite you to share aloud the name of a loved one who is in need of such prayers.
Baruch ben Hadassah.
Baruch atah Adonai rofei hacholim. We praise you, O God, who helps us bring hope and healing to those who are in need. And let us say, Amen.
את החולים ישברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב שרה רבקה רחל ולאה ויברך וירפא את החולים. אנא רפאנה לה, אנא רפאנה לה, please heal. אנא רפאנה לה, אנא רפאנה לו. ישברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב שרה רבקה רחל ולאה ויברך וירפא החולים.
we prepare for a special moment in our worship service. Just as Shabbat asks us to pause from our labors, so too during a Shabbat service we pause from the reading and the singing, so that again we might hear the words and the melodies that lie deep within our hearts and deep within our souls. To bring us into this time of quietude and reflection, I share this thought. If I could reach that certain star and make a wish so true, it would not just be a wish for me, but a wish for all of you. In a world so full of problems, my wish would be for peace. People of all nations joining hands, not wanting to escape or be released. War, crime, destruction. These three words we use every day. If I had that one wish, these three words would be wiped away. Countries would no longer be at war. People would be good to each other. We were all created equal, and God said to love one another. So if I had that one wish, it would be for peace, not sorrow. This way, children just like you and me would have a future. We would all have a tomorrow. And so we pause.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Talents in tickling our ivory and or plastic on the clavinova as it is. And of course to our tech team, to David Youngman, Chris Jastrock, and Phil Carey, thank you very much for enabling us to stream our services out to the broader community that joins us from YouTube. Who knew, back in 2019, who knew that we would be doing this all the time now? And the pandemic has taught us all kinds of lovely, wonderful new tricks. I want to return to the phrase I spoke of at the beginning of our tefillah, that inevitable, quintessential toast of Judaism, that phrase that captures so much, l'chaim, to life. There's one thing we know as a people, there's one thing we know as human beings, is that life is messy. It's very messy. It's never as orchestrated or as neat as we see on movies or television. It is messy because it is live. It is live. I had the pleasure during my undergraduate days of observing a live broadcast from the control room as part of my studies, and to see the chaos that reigns in the control room as they're calling out camera shots and this, it's very stressful back there. I had the pleasure of working behind as part of the stage crew on theatrical productions at The Ohio State University, and the same thing. It's very messy behind the stage. Of course, in the front of the house, everything looks wonderful. Even our worship services. We try to make everything look wonderful, but the advanced preparation of getting everything ready for this is very messy. You know, they often say that you don't want to really know how salami is made. We're in a Jewish house of worship, so I don't want to say sausages, but salami is made very much the same way as sausages, and sausages are salami is a little more palatable given our kashrut, and so you never want to see how salami is made. But it tastes great and it's wonderful. And so life is messy. This evening is the evening of Tisha B'Av, about which I spoke last week. This day set aside to mourn the tragedies, and they are rightful mourning of tragedies. Indeed, the destruction of the temple by Rome in the year 70 presented Judaism with its most existential threat, more so than the Holocaust, more so than the Crusades. The destruction of the temple was, at that time, the major component of our religious expression. And now it was destroyed. And Judaism faced two options. One, cease to exist, or two, radically transform. The rabbis of the Talmud were Reform rabbis. They were Reform rabbis in that they were looking to transform and to reform Judaism. The two schools of thought at that time, prior to the destruction of the temple, besides the third school of thought, which was kill anybody who wants anything to do with Rome or anybody who thinks Rome is great, the major two schools of thought were the Sadducees and the Pharisees. The Sadducees were all about the temple worship. This is where Judaism is lived out. Come, bring your sacrifice, confess your sins to the Kohen, and go and do good deeds. The Pharisees were a little more focused on the street. Go and do good deeds in the street, and yes, also go and bring offerings to the temple and confess to the Kohen, but focus your energies in the street. We are, and Judaism is, descendants of the Pharisees. They are the rabbis who created Jewish tradition for us in the Talmud. On one end of the spectrum, they didn't create anything new. They just wrote down the oral Torah that was also given to Moses. Okay. On the other end of the spectrum, they applied a system of hermeneutical rules to understand and interpret Scripture in such a way that Judaism would thrive and grow and adapt to the new reality. And that's exactly what they did. Imagine what was going through the hearts of these rabbis at that time. I mean, it's hard to imagine. Imagine what would happen if Washington, D.C. was destroyed. Well, some of us might cheer, but the symbol of, the government that rules us is now destroyed. This is the impact of the temple's destruction. We would have been overwhelmed with grief and lost. This is what we've done for the last over 1,000 years. That's what we did. And now, no. The chutzpah of these rabbis to say, nope, we're not going to go away. Instead, Isaiah told us that sacrifices weren't what God wanted. Amos told us that. Jeremiah did too. So the prophets told us 800 years earlier, God doesn't need these sacrifices. Oh, okay, we got it, God, thank you very much. No more sacrifices, we will move on from here. That's chutzpah. That's hope that we will make something out of this tragedy. They say we Jews are a stiff-necked people. No, I don't think we're stiff-necked. I don't think we're stubborn. I think the better word is resilient. We are resilient. To everyone who has tried to destroy us, we have said, no. Maybe some of us. And that's sad and tragic. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to minimize the loss of Jewish life over the centuries. I think of the scientists and the doctors and the artists who perished in the Shoah, the world was robbed of these cultural and scientific advancements thanks to the Nazis. I am filled with tragedy and sorrow when I think of the loss of life over the centuries that our people have paid. But we've never given up. Even amidst those trials, even amidst the worst that we can imagine, we never gave up hope. And I think one of the detrimental things we've done with this Tisha B'Av is we have focused all of our sorrow on ourselves. The rabbis of our Talmud challenge us to understand those painful events as sort of a punishing rod of God. This goes back to the prophets. Nebuchadnezzar was an instrument of God to punish the Israelites of that generation for their failure to live up to the standards of Judaism. Well, who among us has not made mistakes? I don't like that analogy because I think it blames the victim, and I never like to blame the victim. That's inappropriate. Nebuchadnezzar did what he did, not because God said, go ahead, but because Nebuchadnezzar wanted to conquer the world. But when we focus only on our sorrows and our tragedies, we fail to recognize others who have shared in that, and more importantly, those who have tried to be of help. We Jews become very isolationist when we think about only the challenges and the destructions that we have suffered at the hands of others. We discount maybe, or don't fully consider those who tried to be of help. It was the cold winter of 1944. Oh wait, no, that one. First I want to do this one. Sorry. Then we'll get to the other one. A light snow was falling, and the streets were crowded with people. It was Munich in Nazi Germany. One of my rabbinic students, writes Rabbi Lawrence Kushner, one of my rabbinic students, Shifra Penzias, told me that her great-aunt Susie had been riding a city bus home from work when SS stormtroopers suddenly stopped the coach and began examining the identification papers of the passengers. Most were annoyed, but a few were terrified. Jews were being told to leave the bus and get into the truck around the corner. My student's great aunt watched from her seat in the rear of the bus as the soldiers systematically worked their way down the aisle. She began to tremble. Tears streamed down her face. When the man next to her noticed that she was crying, he politely asked, "Why?" "I don't have the papers you have," she said. "I am a Jew, and they are going to take me." The man exploded in disgust. He began to curse and scream at her. "You stupid, stupid woman," he roared. "I can't stand being near you." The SS soldiers approached and asked what all the yelling was about. "Damn her," the man said. "My wife has forgotten her papers again. I'm so fed up with this. She does this all the time." The soldiers laughed and moved on. My student said that her great aunt never saw that man again. She never had a chance to thank him and never knew his name. Yad Vashem recognizes those who stood up against Nazi tyranny, those who braved that fear and spoke from their heart. When we focus only on our tragedy, we forget to acknowledge those who tried to help, those who did help, and those who may have gotten sucked up into the terror themselves. But perhaps one of the most amazing things about our our resiliency is the following story from Hugo Green. It was the cold winter of 1944. And although we had nothing like calendars, my father, who was my fellow prisoner there, took me and some of our friends to the corner of our barracks. He announced that it was the eve of Hanukkah and produced a curiously shaped clay bowl and began to light a wick immersed in his precious but now melted margarine ration. Before he could recite the first blessing, I protested at the waste of food. He looked at me and at the lamp and finally said, "You and I have seen that it is possible to live up to 3 weeks without food. 3 weeks without food. We once lived almost 3 days without water. But you cannot live properly for 3 minutes without hope." We have gremlins. You cannot live properly for 3 minutes without hope. I think that is the resiliency of our people. We have never given up hope. We have always held out hope, even in the most darkest of times. And so as we prepare for Tisha B'Av this night, as we prepare to acknowledge the disastrous and terrifying events that have occurred in our history, I choose to acknowledge the hope that we Jews have never given up on, that humanity can rise to the challenge, and that tomorrow can be better for everyone. And so with Tisha B'Av, for those who mourn, rightfully so, the disasters that have fallen us, but for others, I choose to say, L'chaim. Let us celebrate life and all of its messiness and find ways to be the resilient people we have always been. Shabbat Shalom. And speaking of being resilient, on this Shabbat, the first Friday in August, we want to acknowledge all those who are celebrating birthdays and anniversaries as an opportunity for us to share together in the joy amidst life. If you are celebrating a happy occasion in August, a birthday, an anniversary, please join us here on the Bima so that we might acknowledge that. I think it's me.
Is it?
I'm working on it.
Oh, I guess I should know.
Oh, I'm so sorry, May. We could have come down to you, dear. Thank you.
Well, luckily you have the microphone.
I do. It appears to be me.
Oh, good.
Sorry, I brought the gremlins with me. What can I say? So the microphone will come to you. Please say what you're celebrating. First of all, please tell us your names. Then, what you're celebrating, and if you are so brave, how many times you're celebrating whatever it is you're celebrating.
My name is Ken Goodman, and we're celebrating our 70th wedding anniversary.
Mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov.
7-0. I'm Joan Goodman, his wife. And so I'm also celebrating the 70th wedding anniversary.
Mazel tov.
She's only celebrating 17.
I'm Sharon Gorin, and this month is my 79th birthday.
Mazel tov.
And I'm May Salinger, and I'm celebrating my 102nd birthday on October 19. On August 22nd, but we're having a very nice Onik here on October 19th, so I'd like you all to come and enjoy and celebrate my 102nd birthday with me. Thank you.
For 102.
102. Alavai, beautiful.
I'm Howard LeVoot. I am celebrating, of course, Penny's not here, our 28th anniversary on August 14th.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov, Penny. I'm Dina Jastrock. Next Friday, I will be 75.
Mazel tov, mazel tov.
Yeah, I'm Joe Manriquez. I just celebrated my 71st birthday, August 2nd, and I have an anniversary. It's been 70, oh, no, not 70. It's been 49 years since I quit drinking.
Oh, good for you. Mazel tov.
That's wonderful. We also have these anniversaries. August was a busy month, and these birthdays as well, as we join with our cantor in the singing of our Shehechianu prayer, our opportunity to acknowledge the blessings with which we have been blessed, and to thank God for enabling us to celebrate with all of you these wonderful occasions.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה,
Mazel tov, guys. Mazel tov. You may
Mazel,
return
mazel.
to your seats.
Kol hakavod. All honor to you guys. Thank you, Dr. Ray.
With that, we move to the conclusion of our worship service with the words of our adoration. I invite us to rise as we are able. As we are together in the English, let us now praise the Sovereign of the universe and proclaim the greatness of the Creator who spread out the heavens and established the earth, whose glory is revealed in the heavens and whose greatness is manifest throughout the world. You are our God, there is none else. Therefore we bow in awe and thanksgiving before the one who is sovereign over all, the Holy and the Blessed One.
ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נותן עלינו למען וחי אדוני למלך כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, those who live on in our hearts and our memories, and in a place we call Olam Haba, the world to come. We call to mind those for whom we are observing the Shiva and Shloshim period. Ed Ginter, longtime temple member; Harry Fox, also a longtime temple member; and Lorraine Stein, a longtime temple member. And our hearts go out to all of the families of the Ginter, Fox, and Stein who have suffered these deaths in the most immediate days. To their names, we link the names of those whose yahrzeits have occurred during this past week: William Long, Sissy Miller, Norman Weissel, Gert Starker, Vicky Emery, Jane Andrews, Harry Berman, David Klepak, Kopi Ford, Sanford E. Block, Samuel Markovich, Ann Robinson, Jenny Diamond, Rose Letzter, Milton Green, Abraham Lewis Diamond, Arlene Samuel A. Levinson, Bessie Luff, Nathan Youngman, Robert Meisler, Ray Roth, Harry Weber, Rita Konovieski, Alfred Marshall, and Nathan Weinfeld. To those names, we link the names of those for whom we are observing the Kaddish period: Gloria Austin, Dee Dee Ginter, Dorothy Bernard, Molly Shartoff, Erica Cherie Barnes, Kaylee Goldstein, Craig Wilford, Fred Fink, Joyce Ulabari, Ralph Goldstein, Marvin Asnes, Norma Lippi, Claire Phillips, David Kaplan, Helene Lieberman, Laura Cutler, Marty Hershkowitz, Dottie Roth, Gerald Kramer, Mark Lightman, Stephen Z. Levoot, Harlene Brau, Tim Manriquez, and Lenny Lightman. If there's a loved one whom you are remembering, I invite you to share that name at this time. To those that we have named aloud and to those that we keep named in the quiet places of our hearts and memories, We link as well the names and memories of the men and women of our armed forces who have given their lives for our liberties and our freedoms, those who have given their lives for our safety here at home, members of our police, our firefighters and other first responders, and the members of the Israeli Defense Forces who have given their lives for the hope of peace. Zichronam levracha. May their memories always be for a blessing as we share together the words of our Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba. Bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chaye techo Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach. V'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemei dekudusha berichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May all of us who mourn and all of us who are bereaved, may we find through God's eternal presence a source of strength, courage, and hope, and above all a source of shalom, of peace. And let us all say, amen. We may be seated. So I think we will do this way, and then we'll present you with that, and then we'll do that. All right, I got it. Sorry, just thinking out loud here. We want to have an opportunity to share in our Kiddush here, but we're going to do a special little thing for Ken and Joan in just a moment. Juice and wine are a symbol of joy and happiness. I have a glass for each of you, so that we can share together in the joy of coming together on Shabbat, but especially on this Shabbat, to be able to acknowledge Ken and Joan's 70 years of marriage, which we will do in a moment. With our world-famous certificates, we share in the blessings of Shabbat and acknowledge those blessings with the words of our Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho be'ahava uv'ratzon hinirei lanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim Kivanu Bachata Ve'otanu Kidashta Mikol Hamim Ve'shabbat Kodecha Ve'ahava Uv'ratzon Yinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
L'chaim. And now, Ken and Joan, if you will join me here, we can put these down. You know, here at Temple Beth Or, we don't let anything go by without any kind of official acknowledgement. And so, what has truly become our world-famous certificate, Ani Ladodi Vadodi Li, it says, I am my beloved is mine. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob, Rachel and Leah, bless Ken and Joan Goodman on the occasion of their 70th wedding anniversary. May the love that binds them continue to be strong and lasting. May their hearts be filled with patience and understanding with one another. May their home continue to be a sanctuary built on the devotion to each other, to God, Torah, and to Israel, celebrated this 9th day of Av, the 5th day of August, in the presence of your congregation, Temple Beth Or, signed by myself, our cantor, and our presidents. Ken and Joan, we present to you our certificate in acknowledgement of your 70th anniversary, and join in the singing of Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov as we sing you back to your seats. Oh, by the way, wait a minute. You may kiss the bride.
Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov and Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov Mazel Tov Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov Mazel Tov and Siman Tov Yehelanu 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 Ulecho Yisrael Yehelanu Yehelanu Ulecho Yisrael.
Mazel Tov, Ken. Mazel Tov, Joan, on your 70th. Thank you for sharing your many years together with us, and thank you for the oneg, which we will partake of in a moment. I invite us to rise as we are able as we conclude our service. If you are comfortable putting your arm around the shoulder of someone next to you, feel free to do so. If you would rather hold the hand of someone next to you, or do a little fist bump
There we go.
to the person next to you, please feel free to do so as we conclude with a song about peace that brings together two of the best words for peace, shalom and salam.
Ojevo shalom aleinu, Ojevo shalom aleinu, Ojevo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Ojevo shalom aleinu, Ojevo shalom aleinu, Ojevo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, shalom, salam. Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Ojevo shalom aleinu, Ojevo shalom aleinu, Ojevo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Ojevo shalom aleinu, Ojevo shalom aleinu, Ojevo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam.
Oh, wait, don't say it yet, folks. We got to do this so that we can go into our social hall and have our beautiful, wonderful oneg. We join with our cantor.
Okay then. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Bon appetit. Shabbat shalom, everyone.